Hi guys, so I'm back again today with another review. This time I want to talk a little bit about the Expanse, specifically Expanse Season 4. And of course there will be spoilers here for this story. So I really liked the idea of the Expanse. I had heard about it somewhere on some website or something, I think, and happened to have some access to Prime at the time. Not Prime, I think I watched it on Netflix. Anyway, whatever it was. Um, the I really like the whole idea of it. This is, the whole. For those who don't know, just briefly, it's set somewhere in the future, and it's definitely much more realistic than Star Trek, and definitely much more than Star Wars. So we have these major. The humans have kind of developed a little bit, kind of. And they've colonized several of the planets in the solar system. So we have Earth already. Then they have a settlement on Mars. Those people then became very much sort of kind of Roman in terms of their model for everything, and developed a very sort of um, militaristic society, and were focused solely on getting as many resources as possible to terraform Mars, turn it into a breathable, livable planet, creating a magnetosphere and atmosphere and so on for the planet. Then they somehow managed to get much more advanced technology. Earth, on the other hand, has kind of colonized the moon too, and it's basically kind of like a current sort of Western European or Nordic sort of socialist kind of semi-socialist kind of state. They have a large military, but it's kind of out of date. People having a lot of difficulties with getting jobs and so on, but they end up living off of um, welfare benefits and state checks and so on like this. It was nothing. They've kind of lost their way, don't know exactly what to do and so on. The other main group are the so-called belters. These are the people who live on the asteroid belt that surrounds the inner planets, and they kind of work there. Some of them, I think, and also some of the moons of Jupiter, and they kind of work there, live there. Some are, spend their whole lives out there. Some of them have kind of have changes in their bodies based on the low gravity and so on. And they do most of the actual hard work. They mine asteroids or collect asteroids, collect ice, um, and then sell them to the inner planets and so on. And they're kind of like pioneering sort of group of people, hardworking, but generally looked down upon as uncivilized by the settled planet populations. So anyway, this was an interesting premise, and I liked how, from the get-go we had this mysterious something happening, and the secret government cover-ups and corruption, and private corporations doing evil things and so on. I liked how this definitely seemed much more realistic. So, the politics, the interactions between the people, the main characters, the power plays, the backstabbing in the elite political circles, and so on. All of it seemed much more realistic than the sort of utopian. Yes, everything's great. No one has money. No one needs any like actual money. Everyone just does what they want. There's unlimited food and everything, as we see in Star Trek. So um, that in itself was interesting. Like the kind of the geopolitical things, and I think it's a good sort of projection and fairly believable projection of how things would be if we, as a society, as we are across the world now, developed colonization of the nearby planets and so on. And even traveling is a pain. It's like a big problem. It's painful. It's physically painful and demanding. It's not kind of just swooshing in luxury you know, starships or whatever, as we see in Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever. Um, so all that stuff's good, and I was really interested in how it was developing. This idea about the proto molecule and coming to life and all that kind of stuff. Um, it was an interesting plot, kind of an engine for developing the story and getting all the characters, the various characters involved, getting them all into it. I liked the idea of the ragtag kind of crew and like the stolen Martian frigate or whatever it is, um, with the Rocinante and the crew, multicultural or multi-ethnic crew, I guess we can say, since Martians are a new kind of group of people now. Um, but so I mean, so we got to, the first two seasons were definitely interesting, and we had the mystery and like this, what is this thing and this ancient, what happened to Miller and all this kind of stuff. And season three then, still I think was doing pretty well. I think there was a little bit too much of the belter culture and there's the belter things in there. I was binge watching it when I saw season three, and I kind of, sometimes I was wondering like, you know, what is this? Like, what is going on? What's going on? Like, I think it wasn't done as well as it could have been, or there's something not quite right. But by the end of, towards the end of the season, it was, everything kind of came together. It was pretty interesting. We had the Belters helping everyone else stuck in the, in the the void space or whatever it is within the portal thing, and those all seemed to go pretty well. Um, and the revelation that this was like the the central thing was like the nucleus sort of thing, like the like a cell and the immune system and so on. And it was very interesting about how they kind of played in and showed the change in the laws of physics. At times, when the station became worried, like it would literally like just stop things and instantaneously stop things, and the physical damage that could be caused from that. I like the little intrigues going on with that the sister of Mao, who was kind of looking for revenge and then being hunted by the priest lady and so on. So all that stuff was really really good. I think that was pretty good. I wasn't too surprised actually though when I heard that Sci-Fi had cancelled the the story because of it's just seeing how season three was. I think like there was some things that were not quite right with it. I mean, it was definitely enjoyable, and even if it had ended there, it was probably going to be. I know there's more material from the actual books, but I think it would have been a good sort of a valid and good enough sort of ending if it had to be ended there. So on hearing that the story was picked up by Amazon and continued on that platform, I was pretty happy to hear that. And I just recently finished watching the whole thing. So I really wasn't too impressed with what happened with season four. I think that it was definitely seemed to be like sort of dragged out too much. I think that they dragged out the story way too much. Again, more spoilers if you haven't seen that. Basically, there's some, as we saw from the trailer, there's some settlement. Some of these so people can go through the portal gate thing. And there's all these other worlds available, and one of them has been claimed or whatever by a bunch of Belters who want their own planet, and then a corporation actually got the rights for that colonization or to get the titanium or whatever they were mining from there, lithium I think, and then the corporation sends like a private military force to evict these so-called squatters and so on, and then the Rocinante arrives to try and figure out what's going on. In the process, they activate some ancient structures that are several billion years old, and wreaks havoc on the planet and causes a shockwave and a tsunami and all kinds of stuff because these machines are not functioning properly, and then kind of Miller's in the side kind of instigating some of it because he wants to, or one of them, there's like two versions of him, and like he kind of wants to figure out what happened to his creators, and then the real Miller kind of spirit, I guess, wants to die because he's fed up of being, kind of tortured. So I think and then we get to the ending, and we have kind of you know. Miller gets what he wants. The machine is turned off. Most of the people kind of survive inside one of those structure things. Oh, then there's that illness that makes those creatures that make everyone blind and so on. And then right at the end, we get to see a little bit more of these alien structures and like what they're doing as they're going to try and stop them. Um, I think, like I said, it's just kind of drawn out too much. I think they could have, and then the main kind of focus of the story, or one of the focuses is this like settlement and the conflict, and it's kind of like, okay, it's like the It's like something that happened maybe in the rainforest somewhere in the Amazon or something. You know, you've got like a tribe of people, and then it's like this company comes in to try and chop down their wood, like the wood, and you know there's a protest or some kind of oil development or something like that. And I don't know if I didn't find it too compelling, the story. I could see what they were saying, like these people from the belt, they wanted to have like an actual planet and some land and stuff. But I thought the whole belter culture thing was about being in that low gravity asteroid thing and living that way, and they could have come, settled on back into Earth or Mars or somewhere, but they didn't, kind of mostly by choice rather than just by the fact that they were poor or impoverished or suppressed or whatever. So I didn't fully sort of understand that thing. Um, I think the whole thing about Mars was really disappointing. I mean, I understand what they're saying. So in the story, Mars is um, so Mars has now changed, and whereas before everyone was really hardworking and being all pioneering and being like Romans and fighting and serving for the doing the best they can for the to build this new planet for themselves on this national project. And now because these new worlds have been found, like everyone's kind of give like, and then I don't know how many, I think it's just a few months or something since then. Now all of a sudden everyone's given up and they're all looking to try to find another planet. So and then the whole notion of war with Earth has now diminished so much that they want, no one's really using the weapons and they're decommissioning all the stuff, and like it's kind of like the fall of the Soviet Union or something like that. I mean, I don't understand how that would make any sense. I think these people, all of whom, all the adults would, they're that would know this mission, and they still haven't finished it even, and they're still trying to actually build the atmosphere and so on. I don't see why they would just suddenly, stop everything. I think it would have made more sense if the Martian military government or whatever they have actually went full throttle to maybe to colonize planets for definitely through the gate, but they would do it as the next part of the Martian project, maybe to have colonies outside, and but they would still be Martian. I don't think that they just give up on like the whole Mars dream and just aim to go into some unknown place, into some unknown planet and far away through this portal thing. I don't think that really made any sense. And I think kind of the whole thing about, well, Martian society's changed, it's become weak and lazy and start drug addicts and whatever else they have. I don't think um, that made sense. It's kind of like, how fast did that flop? I don't understand that aspect of it. It's not like they were defeated in some kind of war or something, and they kind of had to question themselves and their mission and so on. There was no need for that. I think overall, like they could have done much more. I mean, they could have just finished up the whole thing about the settlement and the fighting and the corporation and and the peasants and whatever it is. They could have done that much sooner. They didn't need to spend the entire season showing that. And we should have had more about these machines and so on, and the ancient peoples and that kind of stuff. More like that should have been that should have been like half the season should have covered that kind of stuff. So he could have gone into the thing, like into the machine, and floated around and whatever. All that stuff could have been done, but it should have been much earlier, and then they could have actually got some of the story out. I mean, I'm not sure if they're how far along the story is now, compared to the how much material we have in the actual books. Um, but I think this was kind of a bit of a waste, and I think that the next season will probably be more interesting, or I hope at least it will be more interesting and have much more actually happen with the story. And it's when they kind of drag these things out like this, so this is when people, they start losing viewers, and they start um, ending up having to cancel the like otherwise good shows or interesting shows. So those are basically my thoughts. Overall, like, I'm still a fan of The Expanse. I think the new season wasn't the best, but anyway, that's everything I kind of thought about so far. Anyway, I might make an additional video later. Thanks so much for listening, and please leave a comment if you just tell me what you think as well about the season itself, this season 4, or the story itself. What made you attracted to The Expanse? And hope to see you in the next one. Please leave a like if you like this, and if you want more, please subscribe. Thanks so much. Bye.